Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Hudson here at the Hudson Media Group, and I'm moderating the Ward F debate in Jersey City, where we have three candidates seeking, of course, one council seat. We have joining us shortly incumbent Jermaine Robinson. We also have Vernon Richardson and Frank Educational Gilmore. So just for those of you that maybe haven't tuned in or maybe just forgot, just a quick recap of how these debates work. We're going to give everybody 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and then during our Q&A, they're going to have 2 minutes to answer, and we're going to allow a 1-minute rebuttal, but everything will be at my discretion. And that's pretty much it. We're going to have 3 breaks throughout the course of the broadcast, and we're going to go for approximately an hour and a half. So with that, we're going to kick off our opening remarks, and we can start with Frank.
Greetings, my name is Frank Educational Gilmore, running for the Ward F City Council seat, lifelong resident of Jersey City, namely Ward F. I come from the activism world, recreation coach, a mentor, a life coach, and the reason why I'm running for Ward F City Council is because the representation haven't been what it needed to be. So in this new vision for the new Ward F, the People's Ward F, is going to be a level of transparency never seen before in city government. We're going to make sure we're advocating on the behalf of the entire ward. For so many years, there's been this pit against each other, and we're essentially stating that we're going to be representing one Ward F. So again, my name is Frank Educational Gilmore. Thank you for having me, John, and thank you for tuning in on Facebook, Instagram, and all other social media and streaming platforms.
You're very welcome, Frank. Thank you for that. And now we're going to hear from Vernon Richardson.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Vernon Richardson. I am also a candidate for Ward F here in Jersey City, representing Bergen Lafayette, Greenville, McGinley Square, and part of downtown. I'm often asked, why am I running for city council? The answer is a simple one. When I look at the leadership that is currently representing us, I get the same feeling I get when I'm sitting in a passenger seat of a car driven by a bad driver. You impulsively want to hit the brakes or grab the steering wheel. You know that you can do a better job. And that is why I am trying to occupy the seat in November. I'm asking everyone to not only consider what type of job the sitting councilman has done, but also if you choose to get rid of him, if you choose to vote against him, you are choosing to fire him, and you want a capable steward in his place. Not just the opposite, but someone who's capable. I have worked at every level of government, from the city all the way up to the federal government. I worked for council members, mayors. I worked for senators and members of that Congress. On Capitol Hill, I worked for Vice President Al Gore. I know how our government works. I know how it sometimes fails to work for some of us. And I want to put our government back to work for us. Thank you.
Vernon, thank you so much. And just in a nick of time, we're joined with Ward F Councilman Jermaine Robinson, and you could close us out here for the opening remarks.
Over remarks? How you doing?
Very good.
Hey, first of all, how you doing, John? Thank you everyone for putting this together, and thank you everyone from home watching this. My name is Jermaine Robinson, councilman for Ward F. I am a lifelong resident here in Ward F, and I'm a lifelong resident here in Ward F, multiple business owner. I've been in the community my entire life, from a baseball coach all the way up to a public servant. The things that I've been working on for the last 4 years have been really put in place to how do I start? I'm a little off, but the things that I've been working on, it takes time, and we've been really working hard to do the proper things for the community. What we've done is we worked on affordable housing, we worked on recreation facilities, we worked on job programs, we worked on a lot of things over the last 4 years, and I just want everyone to understand, take your time, think about it, listen to what's going on tonight, and you make your decision moving forward for what you want for the best for your community.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Thank you all. And so we're going to get right into it. So first of all, we're going to go right to left this time. So we'll start with the councilman and rotate down. And let's start with policing. So obviously we can't talk about Ward F without talking about, some of the violent crimes, some of the drug dealing. So if elected to a 4-year term, what would you do to try to alleviate some of the longstanding crime in the Ward F neighborhoods?
I mean, what we've already been doing. I mean, we don't have a plan. We just have a track record, right? We've been doing a lot of community policing. We've been making sure that we get the police in the community. We have plans such as Park, Talk, and Walk. We have Rocking with the Seniors. We got Rocking in the Community. And those are the things that we've been doing to bring the police officers to the community. And that means we're not just trying to police the community. We can't police the community. Everyone's been talking since Mayor Cunningham on how we have a community policing project. And Stop, Talk, and Walk is one of those things that we've been doing. We shut the blocks down, we bring the seniors out, we bring the community out, and we bring the community to the police and the police to the community. So we're not just policing the community. The second thing that we've done is over the last 4 years of my first term, we've hired over 70% new minorities. We all know when the police department looks exactly like the community they serve, that they have a different understanding of how it works. We also didn't wait for the CCRB in the city to try to pass in the state. What we did is we went out and we hired a community person, the first African-American woman, which is a regular citizen. She's never been to the academy. She doesn't know anything about policing from an academy standpoint. She knows policing from a community standpoint.
20 seconds, Councilman.
And what we also done was make sure Tawana Moody was in place because she understands how we feel as a community, and she'll help us to grow. The next thing we did is we also did a Ward F cleanup. That means we went out to the community and we made sure that Ward F, we not just cleaned up the community, but we made sure that the people, we were getting the systems closer to the community.
Gonna have to stop you there. Thank you. Verded?
Well, if you listen to the councilman, what he's telling you is if you reelect him and you reward him with your vote, you're going to get more of the same. You're going to get more of the exact same thing that you've gotten from him for the last 5 years. So if you're happy with the way things are, then he deserves your vote. Give him your vote. Frank and I do not deserve your consideration. But if you really believe that Ward F has a crime problem here today, then you want to elect someone who will provide a different level of attention to it. And then in that case, Frank or I are your best options. Anyone who gets up before you and talks about what they're going to do to stem crime directly as a city council member, they're lying to you. The police falls under the executive, and the administration is going to be responsible for deploying the officers, where they're going to be and how they're going to be utilized. So what I can do as a council member is I can enact laws. And one of the laws that I would propose would be commercial rent vacancy fees, so that our main corridors along Martin Luther King Drive, along Ocean, along Bergen, even down Monticello Avenue, where you have seen vacancies that have been that way, not for days, not for months, years, but decades. You will
20 seconds.
foster the owners to rehabilitate those shops, get them operational so that there's a downward pressure on rents, so that people will occupy those spaces. That will create jobs, and once that place is occupied, it will be less of an eyesore and crime will go down. That's common sense, that when you have a vacant plot sitting there and people are not coming through the shop. That's what I will encourage if I'm elected.
Thank you. Frank, what do you think?
Yes, I believe the question was, how are you going to address crime in Ward F? And clearly the current council person, according to his own words, he said exactly, we don't have a plan. That's exactly what he said. So what I plan to do is, first and foremost, in order to address crime, you must understand crime. You must know and understand what are contributing factors to individuals in certain areas committing crimes. And me coming from that demographic, working with that demographic, understanding that demographic, I know firsthand what these youths need to get them off the streets. Let's start with recreation, mentor, and enrichment programs. I'm of the humble opinion that if you invest in children on the front end, i.e. when they're 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, then subsequently you don't have to pay to house them when they're 18, 19, and 20. So with my relationship I have with the community at large and my relationship with the Jersey City Police Department, several officers, within the police department, we have to figure out a mechanism where we're holding individuals accountable, but we're not criminalizing individuals for just congregating on corners. It's a huge issue in Ward F. Namely on the corridor of MLK and on Ocean. It is a huge issue. And again, in order to address that issue, you have to understand it. You cannot let the municipal government off the hook with respect to providing resources to the necessary programs that's on the ground. And that's something I have a proven track record of doing.
20 seconds.
I run a mentorship program which we get kids jobs all the time. I have done several job fairs and things of that nature throughout the community. And recently, individuals have been getting employment that was once occupying the corners. So that's the type of leadership you need to alleviate and combat crime.
Thank you, Frank. Vernon, Jermaine, any rebuttal?
Yeah, I definitely have a rebuttal because when we talk about crime and we talk about anything that has gone on in Ward F for the last 4 years, my opponent next to me has worked for a council person who not only voted against everything that we've ever tried to do in Ward F, including building rec centers, including building affordable housing, including building affordable recreation facilities for our community. Like, they voted against everything. So anything that has been done, any progress that you've seen, and you can ride around this Ward F and see it, anything that you've ever seen, it's already, this guy has already voted against it. And my other opponent, right, he talks about recreation, but when I got in the seat and I tried to fix recreation, where we tried to get people out of the offices and into the community, it was everybody was working 9 to 5 when I got there. I asked the mayor, I said, why is we working 9 to 5 and the kids get out of school at 3? So my opponent, he said, basically, he didn't want to work at recreation. He left recreation. He did not reapply for the position, and he made a position for himself to not be there. And when I talked to him, I said, hey, excuse me, sir, we need you. You're the coach for the kids. And what he said was, I don't care about the kids. Put me wherever you want. What he did after that is he sued the recreation department because he said we did something wrong and illegal and lost. And that's just what I want to say.
Frank, I'm sure you'd like to respond.
Yes, thank you, John. Appreciate it. I'm happy I brought some documentation because this administration have been known to provide misinformation. And previously, the mayor and the council person actually said that the court dismissed our lawsuit. I actually brought a copy of that lawsuit of which you have seen, which states that we can move forward with our law against discrimination and a plethora of other things. Now, to the second point, with respect to the councilman brought up, that all employees was working from 9 to 5. Again, that's a lie. Pull the data. Individuals that were working 9 to 5 were individuals doing administrative programs. There's no need for an administrator to be in the gyms or working from 1 to 9, which I worked, or 12 to 8, which I also worked. There's no need for those program administrators to be there. They're not the ones actually doing the recreation programs for the kids. So again, it's just a lie after a lie after a lie. And again, this is proven fact. Here's the lawsuit right here. I can't say much about it because it's pending litigation and it's public record, the employees' working hours. All you have to do is look that up. So again, it's just lie after lie.
Thank you, Frank. Vernon, I imagine you have something?
Well, there's a couple of things I have to say. Frank, people of Ward F are not concerned about your litigation. They don't really care. The question was about crime, and that's really kind of the pettiness of what this whole thing has been about. You're absolutely right. If anyone knows the motivations why someone would participate in crime, that would be you. But to Councilman Robinson, I would say, I think you're conflating ideas. Yes, I work for Councilman Yoon, and I wear that with the badge of honor. But I have not voted for anything. Now, he voted against certain projects, and you know why he voted against certain projects, because your ideas or your solution.
Not certain projects, every project.
Please don't interrupt me.
Every
Thank you.
project.
Please don't interrupt me, because every one of your ideas are the same. If all you have is a hammer in your hand, every problem is a nail, and that's what you do. Everything is, let's get a developer to do it for us. Let's get a developer to do it for us. Let's get a developer to do it for us. You're bankrupting the city by getting the developer to do it for us. If it's worthy for us to do it, the city can do it. You can vote to have the city do it. That's the right way to tackle the problem.
20 seconds. You good? Okay. We would like to get to some other topics, but we got a lot going on here. You could respond if you'd like.
I mean, listen, we've been working really hard in Ward F. We've got more affordable housing than any other time in the history of Jersey City. Over 3,000 units, moving development from downtown to the Ward F right now. We got 1,500 units. That's 50% of all the units that have been done anywhere in the city over the last 4 years has been affordable. I fight with developers every single day, and I'll tell a developer like this, any developer, if you're gonna build anything here in Ward F, then you're gonna take care of the city. Do not come see me without a community development program, and I'm talking to developers, and I'm also talking to anyone talking about marijuana and opening businesses. We will take care of our community. We watched for so long the tale of two cities happen, where downtown received everything. Now it's time for Ward F to receive their fair share, and I'm gonna make sure as your councilman for the next 4 years that I hold developers, business owners, marijuana people, hold them to task to really do what is right for our community.
All right, Frank, would you like to close us out on this?
I mean, I don't really want to. I really want to talk about some real issues. I would just say consult the records for, you know, how he voted as it relates to where these favorable deals for developments. I mean, we can move to the next question, John.
Okay.
Well, before you go, I want to say to the councilman, you may feel that you fight developers every day, but you don't have a scratch on you. You know, my slogan has been prepared to lead, ready to fight. And I think that you've been lacking in fighting, just like I believe he's unprepared to lead. That's the critical thing here. You're not fighting the developers. You're in bed with them. And that's not called fighting what you do in bed.
In bed with
All right,
developers
guys.
is a really harsh word to say.
How much money have you gotten from the developers this year for the campaign?
$0 and 0 cents. I have got $0 and
All right.
0
Your
cents
campaign,
for the
guys,
your
campaign
campaign.
by
All
developers.
right, guys, let's move on to the next topic, please. But you kind of put a segue in. Let's talk responsible development. Let's just leave it open-ended like this, but we'll start with Vernon, then Frank, then Jermaine. So what is your vision for responsible development in Ward F for the next 4 years?
You know, there's a couple of fronts. One of the key problems we have in our ward is parking. I think that everyone scratches their head and says, I don't know why we have this parking problem, but the parking problem is rather simple one, is that we went from 1-to-1 parking, in some cases up to 4-to-1 parking. For every unit, for every 4 units, we have 1 parking spot. And that is a prescription for mayhem. Every one of us knows someone who owns personally 2 cars. So if you have a family of a husband and a wife and an adult child and they all have cars, you have 4 cars in that 1 unit, let alone per every 4 units. So that's number one. Number two, we need to locally define what we're talking about when we say affordable. The councilman talks about all this affordable housing that's been built in Ward F. But if you're talking about a 1-bedroom at $1,700, that is not affordable to anyone in Ward F. That's just not the case. Unless you're talking about the downtown end of it, yeah, and maybe a little bit over in McGinley Square, but for the most part, our community can't afford $1,700 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment and call that affordable, right? So we need to have an idea as to what we're talking about. Not use a federal term, that's what they're talking about. But what do you mean when you're saying you're gonna build affordable housing? What I mean is that it is in line with the people that live in that census district. Right? So if you have a poor census district, you shouldn't be coming in and saying, look what we did, because what you end up doing is you end up gentrifying the neighborhood by affordable housing.
Thank you, Vernon. Frank, responsible
Yes,
development?
responsible development to me and to many of the constituents in Ward F is just making sure we're holding the developers responsible to the point Mr. Richardson touched on with respect to parking in the area. And I'm really perplexed as to what traffic studies are they looking at when they're approving these developments where it was once occupied by 2 or 3, 1 or 2 family homes, and those were knocked down to make way for high rises upwards of 8 stories with 100 and something units and things like that. So that's one. And two, we talk about, well, the councilman talks about affordability and being the architect behind all of these new affordable units. And fortunate for me that I do a lot of reading and I do a lot of researching, and I can see that a lot of those dwellings that he was talking about being affordable were actually put in the works before he even became council person. Case in point, Whitlock Mills. He's act like he's the great architect behind bringing all of the affordable units to Whitlock Mill. And then one more thing I want to say with respect to affordability. When we're talking about affordability, I don't want all affordable units in Ward F. We want to scatter it around. We need people who make living wage, living next to people who make 100,000, so these people can aspire to do things. So when we talk about affordable housing, we don't want it clustered in one development nor in one area. And also we have to make sure that these developers are not agreeing on one thing and then a few years later waiting and consulting with elected officials to have their camp be consulting on projects so they can get more lucrative deals.
Thank you, Frank. Jermaine?
So the first thing I think about when I think about responsible development is bringing development to the Ward F, to our part of the city. This, over the last 4 years, is the first time that we've seen any development in Ward F. Any development, not some that was here 10 years ago, but it's any development that has been coming here in Ward F. And when I think about affordable units, the fight that we have every day, when my opponent says something about 1 bedrooms at $1,600, $1,700, I encourage him to go to Dr. Lena Edwards. I encourage him to go to Whitlock Mills. I encourage him to go to these different projects and see that there are 1 bedrooms at $1,000 in these units. I encourage him to do that, right? And my opponent talked about I wasn't the architect of Whitlock Mills. You're absolutely right. It was sitting there for 16 years vacant. No one was the architect 16 years ago. When I got in, I sit on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund board because I know firsthand exactly how to move these units forward. I negotiate with every single developer out there, and all of these units that are placed right now, I have a seat at the table. Did I start it 16 years ago when it stopped and didn't do anything? Absolutely not. But right now, we have over 270 units of affordability there, starting at $1,000, and people call me every day saying thank you. And the waiting list is over 2 years long because they're calling me, begging me for more affordable units. So when you talk about affordability and you talk about Whitlock Mills and the price and what is and what isn't, there is only one person up here that has the knowledge, 20 years of background of real estate in this city, in this community, to make sure that we get the right deals done for the Ward F community.
Thank you, Jermaine. That's quite a start, ladies and gentlemen, but we're going to take a brief intermission and you guys will have a chance to rebuttal as soon as we get back.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. Across the Hudson Mall is your one-stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens Jersey City Ford, 201-432-7272.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang.
Introducing the all-new Ford Maverick. A truck for people who do stuff. And people who make stuff. People like Gabrielle Union.
I make this look good, don't I?
Who haul whatever they want to wherever they want. Like wood to build things made of wood with. And friends to get weird with. It's for long trips that the standard hybrid engine with a targeted EPA estimated city fuel economy rating of 40 miles per gallon helps with. That an 8-inch touchscreen connects with. And any trip that this interior makes more comfortable. But we'll let Gabrielle tell you all about it.
Or I could just tell them it's a Ford truck that starts at less than $20,000 MSRP.
Yep, that works too. The all-new Ford Maverick, built to defy expectations. Brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's tough enough to have best-in-class available payload and smart enough to know that a cab can also be an office. A truck equipped with best-in-class available towing that asks, why can't all that power more than just this truck? No, your brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's the all-new F-150. Tough this smart can only be called F-150.
John Hudson from Hudson County View, and I'm still here at the Hudson Media Group Jersey City Ward F Council debate. So, gentlemen, we were just talking about responsible development. I know we had a few minutes off, but would anyone care to rebut, or would like to just move on to the next topic here?
Yeah, Vernon, you raise your hand.
Well, a couple of things. The subject was affordable housing, and the councilman mentioned that he's held a real estate license for a long time as some sort of credential that leads to quality affordable housing. That's not the case. I first held my real estate license in 1989, and I'm not using that out as some sort of credential or qualification. What I will say to you is, what I can say with almost certainty is that I'm the only one on this stage to actually be certified by the state of New Jersey as an affordable housing professional. All right, so I think I take your real estate license and I raise you one. One other thing we were talking about that I did want to address is that the city went ahead and sought a vendor to create a municipal parking study for the city. And since you brought up my late boss's career on the council, one of the things that he objected to was that they were too ideological. What they were contracted to do is to count how many parking spots that we had in the city and find novel ways to add to the inventory of parking spaces. Instead, they came at it from the specter of, we need to find a way to make people get rid of their cars. We need to raise the fee and make it more often that you have to put coins into the meter, that you have to pay a fee based on how many cars you have. You know, those kind of things. That's not what the public wanted. And I have yet to hear anything from you on that subject. So when we're talking about smart development, we need to factor in that parking is a part of it. We should not let affordable housing developers come in and charge for the parking, make that not part of their rent, because that is not affordable, and now you're compounding the problem.
Thank you. Frank?
Yeah, John, we can move on.
Okay, cool. Jermaine, you good? Okay, great. All right, so this one we will start with Frank, and I think a pretty direct one. Do you support active recreation at Liberty State Park? Why or why not?
Yes, I support active recreation at Liberty State Park. I think it's extremely important that we really utilize the park to its true potential. Liberty State Park is a gem of the world. You know, definitely the state, and we wholeheartedly take advantage of it in Jersey City. I know me and my family, we go down there having fun, playing games. I personally go down there jogging with my friends and my other family members. So I definitely support active recreation, passive recreation, all type of recreation that we can get in there, definitively.
Okay, great. Jermaine?
Not only do I support active recreation in Liberty State Park, I am the single reason that recreation is there. When I got in office, I talked to the Friends of Liberty State Park and asked them, can we make Liberty State Park more like Central Park? We got 250 acres of unused land that is contaminated right now. And I've had this conversation over and over again. And it took a 1-8 vote. A 1-8 vote, I had to go against the whole council, and before we got to the vote, we had weeks and weeks. We paused it, we stopped it, and we went to the table. I talked to the councilman from downtown, I talked to the Friends of Liberty State Park, and they basically told me that it wasn't gonna happen. They did not wanna see anything or talk about active recreation. And I single-handedly went and said, no, this is not gonna happen. The kids in the community need active recreation. They've been begging me for active recreation. They've been saying that they've been left out of the park for so long. So I felt it was my duty to go against it. Not that I wanted to privatize or sell a park, but I felt it was my duty to get that active recreation. So I say that in a sense of, if it wasn't for me fighting for active recreation, there would be no active recreation right now. And my opponent actually stood down there and quoted, we don't need any more active recreation. This is not what Liberty State Park is about. And I'm glad the Assemblyman Raj McCurdy heard me. I went down to Trenton. I met with the DEP over and over and over again. 2 days ago, we had a special session with all of the stakeholders sitting at the table, and I'm glad to say that we are sitting here now talking about 80 acres of active recreation that was carved out of absolutely nothing.
Thank you. Vernon?
Yeah, one, I will caution the councilman that he has two opponents, and I wasn't one of them that was there saying those words, so you want to point to who actually said it. Second, since you did all of that, part of that conversation is that if you disagreed with your position, obviously you had to be racist. And you pointed out the fact that you had an 8-to-1 vote. Well, you're running with Council President Waterman. Is she a racist? She voted the opposite way from you. Danny Rivera, councilman at large, you're running with him. He voted the opposite way. Is he a racist? We can go down the line. Councilwoman Denise Ridley, is she a racist? I mean, this is the lunacy. This is all what you did, okay? I should speak to my role and my current position is to foster greater open space and park use for the city. We're arguing about a state asset, and the councilman's been arguing to sell off state assets, and I'm trying to develop municipal assets, municipal parks. We right now have 2 parks, 2 playgrounds in Ward F. 2 playgrounds in Ward F that have 0 playgrounds. All it's just a grassy knoll. That's all it is, right? We have Monticello, and that's only on Monticello Avenue. We have Monticello Mini Park that we're working to try to do something with right now. Graffitied, trees leaning at almost a 45, 50%, 50-degree angle. And we have Monticello Playground. It's actually called Monticello Playground, and it has no playground equipment. It should not have gone unnoticed all these 5 years of your term. There's no reason why there's nothing there. There's no reason why that's the case. But you're fixated on selling the state asset so you can get recreation over at Liberty State Park.
Thank you. Is there a rebuttal, Frank?
I would just say that the record speaks for itself, right? If you were standing on one side with respect to if you're supporting active recreation in Liberty State Park, and then subsequently you're standing with that side now, one begs to differ what is exactly going on. And the interesting thing about the active recreation in Liberty State Park, that you only stood when you seen that it was money that can benefit you. So that's what the reality is. That's what the reality is. And the question is simply, do you support passive recreation in Liberty State Park? Yes or no, and why? I support it because I think that the park has so much potential to just waste all the land that we have. And I think that it's really disingenuous to insinuate that black and brown people don't currently have access to the park.
Thank you. Jermaine, anything further?
I mean, we could talk about flip-flopping or being on this side or being on that side, but I know without my support, there would be no active recreation in Liberty State Park right now. And I'm sure my opponent knows about flip-flopping. You know, I think he got his vaccine today, then flip-flopped on that. He was against the police, now he's for the police. He's flip-flopped on that. He's the actual flip-flop artist. I've never been sold an asset or tried to sell an asset. All I did was stand up for what the people said in our community to continue to ask me for things to help these kids, and that's active recreation. I've been working on active recreation. We've been working on parks. We helped recreate Audubon. We just built the park out of thin air on the Fairmont Triangle. We just did the Mary McLeod Bethune Park.
20
and
seconds.
My opponent, he talks about the park and he talks about Monticello Park, but that's his job. He's supposed to focus only on parks, and then he want to shift the blame to me, saying I was supposed to fix the park. And I thank you because, I mean, I hear flip-flopping all the time, and we understand what that is.
All right. Frank, anything? Would you like to move on?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the real issues, man. I don't really want to keep going back and forth with this little minute stuff about flip-flopping. I mean, the record is clear. It's clear as day for the people to see. You can fool some of the people all the time, all of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time.
Okay.
Great to say from a flip-flop artist.
Goodness gracious. Your administration is the epitome of flip-flop.
All right,
Yeah,
guys, come on, let's not yell out.
So I have accused Frank of not knowing how government works, and perhaps unfairly, because we have a sitting member of the council who obviously doesn't understand how government works, that no one in city government can spend 1 cent that the council doesn't pass, right? So that's your job to bring the money home to the ward, and then my job as just a bureaucrat in the system, that's all I am, I don't pretend to be something more than I am, is to make sure that it is done efficiently and expedite that process. Where are those funds, councilman?
$200 million in the form of Martin Luther King
Monticello
redevelopment.
Avenue
Guys.
Playground, Monticello Mini Park Playground. Where are those funds?
All
Where
right.
is $10,000, let alone $1 million? We just
Vernon.
spent $2.1 million to redo
Vernon, that's
Riverview
enough. Come on,
Park.
stop.
Where is the money?
Stop. Thank you. All right, let's move on. So let's just talk about recreation as a whole. So when we're talking about the rec department, when we're talking about giving our youth things to do, especially in Ward F, when we're talking about keeping youth off the street, what would your 4-year plan look like? And we'll start with the councilman here.
So when I first got into office, I tried to figure out what was going on with our recreation department. That was one of the things that kept me up all night, every single night. What is going on with our youth? We're watching 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds murder each other and shoot each other. And I wanted to figure out what exactly was going on. You know, as a former baseball coach, I talked to a lot of youth every day, and I tried to figure it out. And what I figured out when I first got in was the previous 3 directors of recreation were sued. We had a cesspool of people in recreation that found it very simple to just sue. And when I talked to the mayor, I said, listen, we have to fix this. We have to do something to fix this. Myself and Councilman Danny Rivera, I remember the meeting like it was yesterday with the mayor. I said, we have to fix this. We had the 3 former directors get sued all at one time. And I said, this can't be happening. It can't be about grown folk and grown people and their disputes and fight against each other, because at the end of the day, the kids are losing. So what we did was we came up with a plan to change the recreation department
20
from
seconds.
recreation and youth development. We put a new director in place and COVID happened. But right now we already have plans for the next 3 years on how we're gonna be hiring kids. We already hired kids, 100 of them last year, and we're gonna be moving that forward each and every year. This is not a pie in the sky kind of thing. We need to sit back,
Time.
focus on exactly how recreation helps the kids stay off the street corners to make a
Time.
better Ward F.
Thank you. Vernon?
The question was about keeping kids off the street, and we start talking about the bureaucracy of city government. That's not the solution. And I'm the oldest person standing before you today, when I was young, we had the CEDAR program, and yet we had crime. And there have been many iterations of that program over the decades since then, and yet there still remains crime. The councilman keeps saying over and over and over, the solution to the problem is continue to do the same kinds of things we've done in the past. Earlier in this conversation, I said one of the ways that I would address crime is by putting pressure on property owners of commercial properties to lower their rents so that the entrepreneurial spirit can kick in, and we can have businesses that will need employees, so there'll be jobs for young people across this city. That's the solution. Right? Not some sort of summer program where we're going to give you a couple of dollars, go pick up some trash in the park. That's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, and bravo for doing that. No one's going to beat you up for doing that. But making that the answer to this question, no.
Thank you. Frank?
What will recreation look like in 4 years under Gilmore for Ward F term? This recreation will look like the programs we run in our community center on a macro level. And the programs we essentially run there are mentorship programs, job readiness programs, and entrepreneurship programs. And these programs are essentially geared towards getting youth to participate in things other than sports as it relates to just bouncing a ball. If you look at recreation, and I almost feel like these questions are extremely unfair to both of my components, seems as though this is directly down my power line and my line of understanding. I worked at recreation. I'm the architect behind bringing a first mentoring program into the schools in recreation. I came to Ryan Scrella and I said, listen, we have to do more than just have these kids playing basketball. So the recreation that I'm envisioning in the next 4 years is to prepare these kids on the front end. I mean, the jobs are cool, but once you give a person a trade, you essentially give them a mechanism to create income for the eternity of their life. So that's what that recreation department will look like.
Great. All right, that was.
So I just got to follow up on that. Like, I was going to not say anything, but I had a hard time trying to get Jersey City's first recreation center in the history of Ward F, in the history of the city approved. Last year, we worked hard to get it. A recreation center, 22,000 square feet, 2 stories right on Berry Lane Park. And I distinctively remember having a conversation with my opponent and saying, listen, maybe 17 stories is not the right amount. But that is not what's going on here. We have an opportunity to get our first recreation center here in our community. And not only a recreation center, but a minority business incubator, where that's 50 to 70% off rent to come in our community to open up space for jobs and creation for our people. Right now, myself and Commissioner Walker is working on a first trade school. Myself and I talked to the mayor, and we have the 911 center on Bishop Street. When they move to MLK, that is going to be a trade center provided by the city of Jersey City, forwarded and functioned by myself, the Ward F councilman, making sure that we train and employ people properly.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Oh man, first and foremost, this recreation deal, right? Again, you have to do the reading. You have to look. It's not a state-of-the-art rec center. They essentially obliged to present a white box, people. Let that marinate for a minute. They obliged to do a white box. We're not even going to get into the unethical dealings of individuals from your campaign being a consultant on that project. We're going to move past that. It's a bad deal. Why is it a bad deal, John? How can you negotiate a deal for development to go up and for a rec center and a small business incubator, and you don't even know the value of the land? You're operating from a disadvantaged standpoint. I distinctively remember at a council meeting when you were asking, what is the value of the land? So how are you negotiating a price? One, you haven't met with the community extensively, but you've met with the developers extensively. So one begs to differ. Who are you really representing? And to your point earlier, you said you glad you have a seat at the table. That's the most truthful thing you've said up here today, that you have a seat at the table.
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple of things. We were talking about our plans over the next few years and what it would look like. Frank laid out a glorious vision, but what he didn't say is, how was he going to accomplish it? How was he going to get that done? In all likelihood, let's play this out. He wakes up November 3rd. He's gotten 51% of the vote. Councilman Robinson and I are walking away with our tails between our legs. He'll be in the minority, and most likely he will be in the minority on the city council. And having been a chief of staff to a member of council who's been in the minority, I know that is a tough slog. So I don't believe you're going to be able to accomplish that in the 5 years because there's going to be so much resistance to it. If you could, beautiful thing, but I don't think that you're going to be able to. Councilman Robinson, I'll again remind you, you have 2 opponents. So if you're going to finger Mr. Gilmore, please do so. But don't confuse people to think that I would play a part in that.
20
Again, I
seconds.
want to point to what you said earlier and what I said in response to it. I said to you, the reason why Councilman Yoon objected to so many of your ideas, it was because you were trying to go to the developer and get them to do it. You want to get them to develop the rec center, and then you want to say, I got a rec center. No, you got a developer
Time.
to be able to do that by saying, please, please, please.
Time. Thank
I
you.
just want to say that's an accurate assessment on the behalf of Vernon with respect to the results on November 3rd. Well, I don't have no rebuttal. You can go ahead.
Thanks, Frank.
I promised to fight to end the tale of two cities. As a realtor in Jersey City, I watched how downtown became absolutely nothing. And if Danny Rivera was here today, he would say downtown was the land that God forgot. It went from absolutely nothing to the sixth borough. And I watched how it get done. And that's responsible conversations with developers. The Boys and Girls Club was done out of that. We just did the groundbreaking from the homeless shelter, St. Lucy's homeless shelter. We did Nimbus dance work. We have not one, not two, but 3 schools. You stood on a porch with him the other night, and he did 3 schools downtown that was done by developers.
20 seconds.
68 stories, 3% affordable housing, and 3 new schools for the community. So you're gonna tell me that we're not gonna be able to force developers to do something? You're absolutely right. If you're a developer and you're coming to Jersey City and coming to Ward F, be prepared to take care of the city.
All right. So
The councilman brought up downtown and how it has been awakened over the years. What he's not pointing out is that so many of those families were pushed out to other parts of the city, right? I, for one, grew up on Warren Street downtown, when downtown was the worst part of Jersey City. All that development pushed me and my family out, and it pushed so many other families from downtown out of downtown, out of Jersey City, out of Hudson County. So you look at it as like some glorious event. We don't want downtown, uptown.
all right. Well, I guess that's a good time to take our second break. Certainly not boring so far, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back shortly.
It's another break for real?
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. Across the Hudson Mall is your one-stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens Jersey City Ford, 201-432-7272.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang.
Introducing the all-new Ford Maverick. A truck for people who do stuff. And people who make stuff. People like Gabrielle Union,
I make this look good, don't I?
who haul whatever they want to wherever they want. Like wood, to build things made of wood with. and friends to get weird with. It's for long trips that the standard hybrid engine with a targeted EPA estimated city fuel economy rating of 40 miles per gallon helps with. That an 8-inch touchscreen connects with. And any trip that this interior makes more comfortable. But we'll let Gabrielle tell you all about it.
Or I could just tell them it's a Ford truck that starts at less than $20,000 MSRP.
Yep, that works too. The all-new Ford Maverick, built to defy expectations. New truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's tough enough to have best-in-class available payload and smart enough to know that a cab can also be an office. A truck equipped with best-in-class available towing that asks, why can't all that power more than just this truck? No, your brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's the all-new F-150. Tough this smart can only be called F-150.
Hi, I'm John Hudson from Hudson County View, and I'm still moderating the Jersey City Ward F Council debate. So, gentlemen, thank you for giving us your insight thus far. We're almost to the finish line here. Let me ask you a yes or no question based on what we were just talking about. Again, just yes or no, no explanation necessary. If the Morris Canal Manor plan in its current form came before the governing body and you were sitting on the dais or on Zoom, depending on what the state of the world is, would you vote yes or no? And we could start with Vernon.
No.
No.
Yes, I would vote no.
Okay.
Everybody answered already?
Yeah, you could answer.
Absolutely yes.
Okay, great. So now let's move on to a totally different topic, and let's talk a little bit about Suez. So look, there's been a lot of consternation, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration with Suez after Hurricane Ida. Certainly, there's been a lot of talk how they just have not been providing the services that they're contracted for. So what do you think the solution, or at least part of the solution, is moving forward with Suez? And we'll start with Vernon.
Yeah. Long-term solution is we should be bringing that in-house. When we outsource our assets this way, we confront these kind of problems. This is why we have this problem. This is why we have the problem with the garbage. This is why we have problems every time we outsource it. Corporations are less likely to have our interests at heart than our elected officials, that we can actually hold them accountable. In this current state, all we end up doing is saying, oh, it's not us, it's them. It's them over there. And that's a ready-made excuse to wiggle out of every problem that we were confronted with.
Okay, Frank?
Well, the first thing we will have to do is stop allowing Suez to donate to electoral campaigns. It's disheartening at the rate that they're trying to charge us for additional sewage or whatever that backdoor tax was. And then subsequently, when Ida happened and some of our most vulnerable residents needed essentially simple drinking water, they were unable to provide that. They were saying that they will be at the municipal complex on 360 MLK at a certain time, of which they didn't show up to 5-6 hours later. And essentially, to be honest with you, I think we let them off the hook. We let them off the hook. At the very least, we need to strongly consider terminating their contracts. And not just from a verbal standpoint, we need to strongly consider this, look at other providers in the industry to make sure that Jersey City residents are getting the best service for their money. This is a company that just tried to incorporate a higher tax on our water, and then subsequently, in the same breath, they weren't even able to provide what they were contracted to provide.
Very good, Frank. Thank you. And Jermaine?
So we've already sat down, we've worked on a resolution as the council. We passed it 9-0 to work on Suez. And what I can say about the whole situation about the water, it was really something that was out of our hands. And Suez said they would be at the City Hall Annex at 9 o'clock. I was there at 9 o'clock. We had a line growing. I actually spent thousands of dollars out of my own pocket to bring water to our residents, right? Now, we can play politics and say who should be and who shouldn't be in government, but when there's a crisis, we all have to band together to work together to make sure that we as a city is taken care of. Right? I didn't just do for Ward F, and all my council colleagues know I was in the middle of City Hall Annex, and we were getting water sent to Journal Square, downtown, Ward B. At the same time, I was spending money out of my own pocket, taking care of our residents over in Ward F. So we are working with Suez, and we're really hard on them. We're really hard on a lot of people in the city to make sure that they do the right things for us, and we passed a resolution to look at it, to dig deeper, and we will keep a watchful eye on Suez. We even had them come to the city council meeting to talk to us about the breakdown in communication, talk to us about everything else that they were done. So at the end of the day, not just Suez, but everyone who works for the city will be held accountable for their actions.
Yeah, so, well, again, Councilman, I don't know, maybe Frank may have said this, about who should be in and out of office. I didn't make that mention. I'll leave that to the voters to decide. But what you said is exactly what I suggested a few moments ago. is by having this, this contract for water outsourced, it is a level of protection for elected officials like yourself, because you don't say, it's them, not me. Oh, you know what we did? We passed a resolution. That'll show them. Oh, we brought them into City Hall and we gave them a talking to. That'll show them. That doesn't do it. That doesn't do it. Take responsibility. The same way you take responsibility, I'm building a rec center. Responsibility. Active recreation at Liberty Park. I did it. Responsibility. Take responsibility. This happened under your watch, and all you can do is pass a resolution and give them a firm talking to.
I just know, I'm a businessman myself. I just know that if I don't perform the service that I was contracted to perform, I will no longer have that contract. The bigger issue here is not so much what Suez did, but what wasn't done to them for doing what they did to our people. And this is what happens when you let these companies, corporations, and developers get in bed with the local politicians. This is why I'm running on an independent platform, independent of all of those individuals who may have special interests in trying to steer city contracts. And this is what makes me the most fit candidate for the job at councilperson of Ward F.
All right, Jermaine, would you?
So yeah, I mean, Vernon talked about responsibilities, and I've got multiple complaints to my office about not sweeping and not shoveling the snow in front of your own property. So you should probably take some responsibility for that. And every time Frank brings up in bed with somebody, I can't help but think about how many drug dealers he was in bed with and helped to hire and push kids to sell drugs for them. So when you're talking about being in bed with somebody, you got to take responsibility for yourself and be in bed with that, because you can't sit there and act like these problems are not here. So being in bed with a developer, you're being in bed with a lot of people that was doing a lot of wrong stuff and hiring kids to do it. And like I said, Vernon, yeah, I said your name this time. Take responsibility for your own front door.
Absolutely. And this is what I'm talking about with the councilman. Let's say his accusations that he just pulled out of his rear end are accurate. Let's say that that's true. Okay? Let's just stipulate it for the record. I've got no summonses from the city. Again, are you going to take responsibility? Because how many other deadbeats like myself are out there that are not getting summonses? Or are you letting that slide too? And you're just going to wait for them to run against you so you can throw that out at them. Again, take responsibility, Councilman.
Frank,
Yes, I just want to respond with respect to taking responsibility. I don't think it's been any more transparent candidate, more open candidate than myself. My past life when I was a teenager is open record, right? That's why I'm indebted to my community to do the work that I do. So responsibility in a dictionary, they essentially have my picture next to taking responsibility and holding myself accountable. Now, since we're talking about accountability, right? You seen me and Solomon did the meet and greet down Van Voss Park, and it came out that I wasn't vaccinated and things of that, and I gave my stance on it and everything. And credit to because this get lost in all of this political hysteria. Credit to the people for actually asking a question and initiating the conversation, right? And just for the record, so the record is crystal clear, right? That hesitation it's a real thing, right? It's a real thing. And then there's this other misinformation. Well, you were in school around seniors with no mask. First of all, you can't get in a senior home without a mask. You can't get into school without a mask. And if I was, why weren't you holding the schools accountable? Again, another story for another day. So when we talk about accountability, we have a sitting council member who actually threatened to harm an individual from the council chambers. Threatened him.
20 seconds.
From the council chambers. We also have a sitting elected official who have all of these allegations, be it allegations, but extremely harsh, of mistreating women. So when we talk about accountability, I would just urge the council member to look in the mirror when he talk about accountability and responsibility.
All right. I think we should
No,
move.
no, no. I got to respond to that because
Sure.
allegations are allegations that was thrown out of court immediately when the videos came out. Thank God for responsibility of having 22 cameras that surround my business. And when we talk about responsibility, like an allegation or something happened, like this is somebody who has actually been charged with attempted murder, charged with illegal handguns, charged with all of these things that they're going to throw out some allegations against me. No, those are just facts, and it's public record of what you did, and not just as a youth, a minor. No, you did it as an adult. You employed minors as an adult with chances of not going to jail, and guess what? You wasn't good at that either. And guess what? You went to jail after you employed those minors to sell drugs for you.
John, I would like
well,
to just, and I don't want to keep going back and forth because it's like really child's play, but I'm just so fixated on facts, right? He just brought up allegations that I was accused of doing X, Y, Z. You have to be very cognizant when you're dealing with people in this administration, how they use words to try to insinuate things. Did he say I was convicted of any of that stuff? Attempted murder, possession of firearms, employing a minor? Did he say I was convicted or these were allegations? I'm just confused. I just really want to focus on facts and not hearsay.
So maybe the fact should be, you should let us know what the 10 years
Let
before.
gentlemen, a couple of different things. This is the first time I've heard you speak on the subject. So you're saying that the woman who made the accusation against you lied. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that
Thank
we have
you.
20.
You're not going to answer the question.
I'm saying that we have
You're
22.
not going to answer the question. Thank you. So now I'm using the rest of my time.
I'm saying
gonna
that
direct
we
the
have
rest of my
22
time- I'm gonna-
cameras at
I'm
the
not-
Light Rail
Excuse
Cafe,
me, guys.
and the
Did
second
she
they
lie?
seen it,
Guys,
Did she
guys,
lie?
she absolutely lied, and it
Thank
was
you.
and
Guys.
the charges was dropped
Thank you.
immediately after
Good.
the cameras.
That's all I wanted to
footage
hear.
came.
All right,
She
all right, no
lied.
back and forth. No back
Okay.
and forth. Come on. All right,
Okay,
move on.
so,
move
so
on.
now
move on.
what?
Absolutely lied.
So Frank, one thing I will dispute from what you said is that you said you were an independent. Frankly, you're not independent because by definition, you're not independent. Independent is you stand alone. But all that you're doing, some of the things you say about Councilman Robinson is accurate, is that he's part of a group, part of a team that are allied, and what our interests in our community, who cares? We're going to be allied together. Well, all that you've done is create the exact same monster that's on the other side because you're not running just by yourself. You're allied with candidates as well. And I assume that they hold the same ideology that you have and that you're going to be united there. So Team A, Team B, Mets, Yankees, same thing. That's not independence. I'm the only independent candidate up here today because I'm running by myself. All right? There's a councilman in Ward B that's running by himself. Chose not to ally themselves with you. The two candidates up in Ward C in Journal Square.
20 seconds.
They're independent. They're not running with you. We have a candidate up in Ward D. You have one, the other is, and I don't know. I know you had this rally with Councilman Solomon. You're allied with him because ultimately it took him having a conversation with you, according to the media, to get you to get your vaccination shot. So the mayor can talk to him and get him to do whatever he wants. Councilman Solomon does the same thing with you. Thank you.
And John, I would just say, this is coming from an individual that the mayor actually handpicked and appointed him to be his aide. This is not a civil service title. This is not an equitable position where multiple people are choosing who's going to fill the seat. This is essentially, I, Stephen Phillip, appoint you, Vernon Richardson, and rest in peace to Michael Young. And I'm just really appalled how you can join such a team who Young really pretty much wasn't in alignment, and they were doing a lot of unethical things. So, Vernon, I have to question your allegiance and where you line up. Councilman Robinson just ratted you out and said you were at all of those events and all of those meetings and cutting of the ribbons and everything.
I thought he was talking about you.
No, you were there with him.
No.
All right, guys, enough.
No.
I think let's move on.
No, he brought up Councilman Young's name. So I want to tell you this, first of all, for the record, because you don't go to that many council meetings. You go to them when you want to speak, but you don't go there just to sit and watch. You haven't before the COVID pandemic started. The fact of the matter is the councilman voted about 93% of the time with the administration, right? He got a lot of play because The way that you're supposed to be as a councilman, if you're going to be independent, is when the mayor does something that is right, you should be prepared to be his cheerleader. Not all the time, but when he's doing something right, you should be prepared to be his biggest cheerleader because he's doing something good for the community. And when he doesn't do the right thing, you should be prepared to amend whatever he's doing so that it better fits our community. And when he resists that, that's when you raise holy hell. But you
20
raise holy
seconds.
hell from the very first moment. The first word of something, the administration's bad. That's not the way to be a good council member. That's not the way to be a good council
So
member.
you're going to hold Stephen Phillip.
I didn't
You're
say-
gonna,
did I say that
You're
word?
going
Did
to
I say
hold
those
them
words?
accountable.
What I said
That's
was,
what
guys,
the constituents
what about-
of the
go back
ward
and forth.
need is for representation
Gentlemen,
to
gentlemen.
hold
What
our
we will
elected
do
leadership
is
accountable.
when he proposes something that is
Guys,
bad for
come
my
on.
community and refuses to amend it,
Can we hit the
then
mic?
yes, I will hold
Mute,
it accountable,
mute.
meaning I will vote against it, absolutely.
All right. So obviously that was a pretty spirited debate, but let's move on if we could, please. So let's go back to where we started in a sense. So when we talked about police and we talked about recreation. So let me ask you guys this. If a measure came before the council and you were sitting on the dais and that measure was to allocate funds in the millions to social services programs from the public safety department, would you support that measure? And why or why not? And we'll start with Frank.
Thank you so much for, you really cheating tonight, John. Oh, goodness gracious. I would definitely support that measure. Why would I support that measure? Because I know firsthand how much a disadvantage our officers are at when they encounter scenes for mentally disturbed individuals. They're not equipped to deal with the mentally impaired individual. Their training doesn't speak to that. Case in point, I told you I do high-level mentoring in my organization. I vividly recall a family calling me because one of the youth had a situation where he was extremely enraged at what was going on in his house, and he was sitting at the top of the step with a knife. And the parent, she called me, and I urged her to call the police when I tell her that I'm on my way, so as long as though he's not in a position where he's threatening anyone or himself. And it is extremely important that we have funds allocated in a budget to address this. We don't want to criminalize people who have mental issues. We got ourselves in trouble with the crack pandemic, criminalizing individuals when they needed treatment. So I will wholeheartedly support a measure. I will bring solutions to the table as opposed to how that measure looked, because I'm on the ground doing the work. I'm working with the entities that do the work. I have the relationship with the community.
Thank you, Frank. Jermaine?
Could you repeat the question? I'm a little confused.
Yes. So let's say it's 2022, you're on the council, and there's a resolution that would allocate funding to social services, and they would be taking money from public safety and putting that into social service programs. Would you support that measure? Why or why not?
So I would support that measure if and only if our police department was fully funded, right? We need our police department to be fully funded because in the community every single day, they're not asking to defund the police. They are not asking to defund the police. The police actually call me 16 blocks because every single day I'm in Tawana Moody's, the director Tawana Moody's office, or Chief Flora or Chief Martinez's office, talking about we need more police officers because the residents are calling me. The senior citizens, Miss Shirley on Forest and Bergen, she is petrified to drive out of her driveway down to Forest and MLK. When I say MLK, petrified. She called me every day and said, we need a cop on Forest. It's another correction officer that lives on Forest and MLK. Beg me every day. In every street, Grant, Forest, Myrtle, Boswick, if you name it, they're always asking. So I would definitely vote to approve any money moving from, as long as the police department is 100% financed. We're not gonna be taking officers off the street. We're not gonna be defunding police officers to try to say we need mental health. If we need mental health, my job as a city council representative is to find the money, but not shortchange the public when it comes to public safety.
All right, Vernon?
I guess I should give some more of my time back to the councilman so he can fully explain why people call them 16 blocks. I didn't get that.
There's none of that. Please just answer.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
You wouldn't get it because you don't go up on
Yeah,
MLK.
I don't know what
Go ahead.
16, you call them 16 blocks, you just said it. I'm gonna explain why, and then you didn't explain it.
Hey,
did
come
you?
on, guys, we're running short on
So,
time.
so what I was going to say was, we were all appeared at a forum on Monday of this week, and we all were forced to say yes or no, and we all kind of said yes to it in one way, shape, or fashion or form. And I can't fault the councilman for this because they basically tried to put our arms behind their back to get an answer that's more likely one that they wanted to hear. I would not support that unless I saw a plan laid out where it would actually do the good that we're proposing. The plan that they laid out at the meeting on Monday would have hired 4 social workers per district, and that means you wouldn't even have one on duty all the time if you went 24/7. It would have been totally inadequate. You would either need to fund it by more money or not do it at all, because to do it, at 1.2 million would have been just paying lip service to the problem. It is a problem. I need to know where those funds are coming from. Are we talking about raising taxes on the public? Are we talking about cutting someplace else? The councilman is, I believe, is accurate. You don't want to necessarily cut from what we're doing in the police department based on the needs of the community, but is there someplace else we're proposing to cut it? Where are we cutting it from? And wherever we're cutting it from, that will be what make my mind up as to whether I could support it or not, right? If we're cutting it from recreation, are you going to do it? I think most of us would say no. If we're going to cut it from the health department, are we going to do this? No, we probably say no. So we'd like to hear where we're talking about getting the funds from, the full plan, the full scope of the plan, before we can say yes or no fully. But the idea, yes, I support the idea.
Okay. It looks like we're actually pretty civil on this one. So with that, we're pretty short on time. I'm going to let each candidate ask one other candidate one yes or no question. So Vernon, we'll start with you.
Yes or no question. I don't want to waste everyone's time. I guess my question to the councilman would be, if reelected, would he be a better legislator than he has over the last 5 years, where he's only authored 2 pieces of legislation, one, a prohibition against fruit-flavored e-cigarettes a couple of weeks before the state was going to do the same thing statewide, and another where he named a month Black Lives Matter Month, because those things don't really impact our community. And so would you be a better legislator over the next 4 years than you were in the last 5?
It's a bit of a leading question. You could have a sentence.
A sentence. I think he forgot a few pieces of legislation, one especially with affordable housing going to Jersey City residents first, but absolutely.
Okay, good. Councilman, you could ask one question of one of your opponents, yes or no.
So I guess I could, of course, I'm going to turn it to Frank, and I'm going to ask you. I know that the administration haven't done a great job, and there's so much more that we can do. But is it safe to say that, some of the programs that we put out, including, building affordable home ownership and hiring second chance people, is some of those programs that we have today, are they working?
When you say some of those programs, you only cited 2 programs, so I will address the specific 2 programs.
Just real quick, one
So
sentence, if you
the
could.
affordable home ownership program, which I'm a recipient of it, I would still say that it's a failure because it's only about 5 or 6 houses, and you just said that it was over 1,500 affordable rental units.
Right,
And to
real
your,
quick.
Your second question with respect to second chance programs, I haven't been a recipient of any of the Jersey City second chance programs, and I don't know anyone with successful stories of that program. I do know that it is a political cesspot, which political cronies are appointed.
All right, so you could now ask one yes or no, which
Yes.
seems to not be possible. So a very short
Should've gave us
answer.
heads up.
Very short answer.
Yeah, I
question.
just would ask both of the candidates,
Just
would
one.
you,
Pick one.
okay, well, Vernon, would you advocate on the behalf of Ward F and no one understand that Ward F does not represent Fulop in F?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. All right, so I just want to let our audience know that at 7:30 sharp, we're going to lose our Comcast viewers, but we're still going to go just a few extra minutes so everyone can have their closing statements. So we're still going to be on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So we're just, again, closing statements. Everyone has 2 minutes. So Councilman Robinson, you could start us off.
Well, I think I'm gonna need more than 2 minutes, but you know, let me know when I'm getting short.
Sure.
I just want to talk to the residents of Ward F, right? Can we do better as a city? Absolutely. You know, I think about it all the time, and I was talking about reading Obama's book today, and he talked about his struggles and shortcomings of being a president, and that he felt that he could do more. Right? He felt in his 8 years that it was still, you know, a possibility that he could do more. And so when I talk to you guys today, I'm just saying that I know I can do more. I know I can do better. But the stuff that we've done over the last 4 years, we cannot forget about it. We can't forget about the first firehouse being built in Ward F in over 20 years. The historic number of affordable housing, the many parks that we created. When we talk about VIA, when the bus line started to leave Jersey City, the Garfield Avenue bus left, the Newport left. What I did is I got in the car and I drove to Trenton and I talked to the state legislators about trying to force New Jersey Transit and Red and Tan and other bus operators to stay here, to do what they said they were going to do, take care of our community. And when they said we can't force them, I came back to Jersey City and got to work with the business administrator and the administration, and we created VIA. VIA, if you see it, it's the purple vans that drive around. We put millions of dollars into that so we could give people from the south side of the city, the deserts of transportation, an opportunity to get around. You could go anywhere in the city with those $2. And if you look at the affordable housing, affordable home ownership, when you talk about our COVID response, we were first in the city at everything. And not only being first, we were first in Ward F as being part of the city because we had the testing first in Ward F. We had the first vaccines in Ward F. We gave out the first dollars for businesses. We gave out the first money for rental. We also was giving out free Uber rides to get people vaccinated. Can I do more? Absolutely. But we've done so much in the last 4 years that I just spoke about, and all I'm asking the voters to do today is to give me an opportunity to keep moving forward at first and forward.
Thank you, Councilman. Frank, you have 2 minutes to close out.
Yes. I just want to specifically direct the constituency of Ward F to let you know that in a representation in the People's Ward F, you will have a council person who's not only going to hear your cries, but going to address your cries. I will be visible, accessible, and I will take accountability for everything as it pertains to the ward. And this is the entire Ward F. No longer is it this part of Ward F and that part of Ward F. It's equal representation around the whole ward, whether it's helping a mother who lost a son, whether it's clubbing your dog, whether it's parking deficiencies, any of that stuff. You can bet that Mr. Gilmore will always advocate and be there for the constituents of Ward F. You know what you had for the last 4 years. If you're happy with not seeing your elected official all during the last 2 or 3 years, and they can state on national podcasts that they meet with the mayor every week, which to my calculation is 52 times a year, and they can't meet with their constituency, then by all means continue to go and get what you've been getting. And also, I will also urge the voters in Ward F to look at these 3 candidates. It's clearly 2 candidates are on the same team essentially versus me. So with that being said, we have to be very cognizant and conscientious how a mayor's aide can run against an incumbent on a mayor's slate. So I just want everyone to be very, very, very conscientious of what exactly is transpiring right before our eyes. This is the People's Ward F, and the people will be put first.
Thank you, Frank. And Vernon, please close us out.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts before we end this forum this evening. If you notice when the councilman speaks about all of the things that he's done, he speaks and names everything that's happened in Jersey City, as if he's had his hand in every single one of them. Just point out one off the top of my head. He said, we got VIA to provide free rides to get vaccinations for people. That's not true. That's not true. That proves you weren't in the room when the conversation even took place. VIA did that nationally, all across the country, not just Jersey City. You had no role in it, and it had nothing to do with you. It happened, so you want to take credit for it. As it relates to Mr. Gilmore, I will point out that you can say all these things in the abstract because you don't know me. And perhaps most of you out there don't know me either, so let me just give you a formal introduction. Yes, I'm aide to the mayor. I was chief of staff to Councilman Michael Yoon for 3 years before that. I served on President Obama's organizing committee as an organizer for immigrants. I served as a radio manager for the Senate Democrats, so I served Senator Daschle, Senator Dorgan, Senator Rockefeller. I worked for I worked for Congresswoman Maxine Waters of California. I worked for the Congressional Black Caucus. I worked for the minority senior leadership in the Senate, so I worked for the Democratic Technology and Communications Committee as well. I worked for the mayor of the city of New York. I worked for so many different people with so many ideology, and my only purpose in serving them is serving the people of that community, our communities, across this country and locally here in Jersey City. That's who I am. That's what sets me aside from those who won't fight and those who can't lead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for tuning in. Obviously, we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you to Hudson Media Group, Pat, Mike, Jonathan. We certainly appreciate your efforts. Very valuable. Obviously, the guys doing the production, worth their weight in gold. And it goes without saying that it would be possible without the candidates. So, Ward F. Councilman Jermaine Robinson, Vernon Richardson, Frank Educational Gilmore, thanks so much, guys, for coming in. And one more time, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.